Welcome back. It's that time again. Working on the Militia Man graphic novel. I have to change that line. I did actually leave a link in one of my friend groups so that if anybody's available in that group, they could come join the show. That'd be fun. It's always nice when there's somebody else to kind of hang out with and banter with. Yeah. So, what's going on here? I'm generally kind of waiting for people to show up in the chat, so, or I could just talk to myself because we get along so well, Don and I. It's an interesting thought. Is it common for people to talk to themselves? I don't know. I mean, I don't. One thinks to themselves, but I don't know that you need to talk to yourself. That sounds kind of wackadoo. When I lived in New York City, I'd take the subway every day, and you'd see a fair amount of people talking to themselves out there. It's weird how you see so much of a specific demographic that does that, and you begin to think, like, is this like considered normal among these people? Like, it's just so weird, I mean, you're on public transit and you're just rambling with yourself and getting angry about stuff. It's pretty weird. Cadence Videos, or Viedos, sorry. Cadence Viedos, nice to meet you. Welcome to the show. Doing some comic book illustration work here. I can't stream every night, but I stream many nights. And I'm kind of making a comeback. I used to be somewhat of a celebrity in the hey, Great White Apes here. Jonathan Picasso is here. Is that original? Yes, this is dope. Hey, man. Well, since we got some new folks here, I think we need to give them a little portfolio show. Maybe look at some of my comics so you guys get a little sense of who I am, what I do. This is my book. I am a freelance illustrator, comic book artist, portrait artist, art teacher, content developer, world traveler, musician, songwriter, poet, philosopher, political activist, and I make a damn good cup of coffee too. So if you like comics, there's some interesting, this is like a surreal comic that I wrote and illustrated that's in here. I worked with John Della Rose in Comicsgate. If you're into comics, you'll know what Comicsgate is. It's an anti-woke movement, make comics fun again. This was a 1930s character that we revived, I redesigned, and I had him going after Muslim terrorists, which is like, Marvel and DC will never do that. There's some other examples of my comics work here. If you're into that kind of thing, you're good. You're good to go. How did you guys discover my YouTube? Was it like just in your algorithm, or how did it come to pass? There's also illustration for horror stories, science fiction, tales of wonder and monsters and blah 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 blah. So that this is through something called the Bizarchives, which is you can go to thebizarchives.com and see more books. They're publishing their seventh book of sci-fi horror stories. I would, look that up if you can. This is, excuse me, issue two. If you, I don't know if issue is the right word, but anyway, that one is the one that I illustrated. So that would be the best one that you would want to buy. Let's see. I think it was just perusing a bunch of YouTube. Yep. You are talented, my man. Well, God bless you, sir. I appreciate you saying that. Um, there's some realistic, photorealistic art portraiture that I've done. I've, done a lot of freelance work for many years. So I use a lot of my art and talent is dedicated to the white positive movement, the white identity political sphere is my culture. If you look around, subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll see tons and tons of interviews with people who are influencers in this sphere. I've even had people on my channel that have appeared on Fox and CNN. So yeah, check it out. I also has Not a Frog. Hey, good to see you here, Not a Frog. Dude, nice art, dude. Yeah, you should sub, like, totally. And so I do funny accents in my show. Um, and just a super wide variety of stuff. I tell cool stories. I lived in Asia for 5 years. Um, I do kung fu. I just have a million things to share, and it's a fun show. It's just a great community. People chat in the chat. I am going to be starting a new show on Fridays with another artist. You'll see. You want to tune in on Friday for that. Zog Comics. He is a political cartoonist, and man, this dude's badass. He is really goes for the throat in terms of like political cartoons. So this is my main character here, Militia Man, and it's a if you could combine Captain America and Superman in one character versus the evil cult of Noah Hyde, and these other superheroes are in a team called MAGA Force. Um, who actually, I'll give you. I probably shouldn't give you too much information about this, but I will be posting. I'm going to be making a new website, and I'm going to put the first issue for free. I'll drop something. Anyway, I'm going to put the first issue out there for free so people can check it out. And then I'll turn this music down a touch. And then it'll be like a paid membership site where you can read my short stories, poetry, essays. Some things will be for the public, and then others will be for memberships. But I'm planning on making a comeback. So lots and lots of big plans in the works. I've got other writers that want to hire me to do their projects. And one I have to because it's a big graphic novel series that I have to finish. We got to finish this off. This is something through John Della Rose, who is a major influencer in the comic skate sphere. Look up John Della Rose, DELAROZZ. Am I spelling that right? Della Rose, ARROZ. I'm sorry. And John's teamed up with oh man, I do this every show. What's his name? All right, I'm gonna have to come back to that a little bit later. My head is going in 10 different directions, but anyway, check out John Della Rose. You'll see that we did some cool stuff. He's asked me to do more with him. It's just I need to clone myself, basically. That's like essentially what's got to happen in order for all these things to come to pass. I kind of give you like maybe a look through this current story, just so you kind of get a little bit of a feel for the story. I gotta find like YouTube music that won't give me a copyright strike, and it doesn't have commercials. If you guys know of anything like that, let me know. I'll set these down here. So yeah, we're just looking through the Militia Man story. Zog, do you know who Gary Cohn is? The name rings a bell. Is he in politics? Gary Cohn. That sounds. Can you fill me in on that, Mr. Frog? Um, so just letting you see some of the art for the Militia Man story. It's pretty badass. Um, Short version is that Militia Man works for a, a superhero team called MAGA Force, fighting the woke cult of Noah Hyde, and it turns out, and they're sponsored by Judeo-Christian News, which actually end up secretly trying to kill the team, the team of MAGA Force, and then installing a new, more diverse team of superheroes. But they discover that Militia Man can't be killed, and there's something much deeper to his backstory than Shalom. Aloha. Yes. Anyway, so I think I've given you guys plenty to look at here. This is cool stuff. This is Militia Man fighting Fash Force. So there's a kind of like a fascist superhero team in here. Um, the members of Fash Force used to belong to MAGA Force, but they figured out that Judeo-Christian News is really a scam and that they're not, the right people. No, I don't have a hippo boy. You can create that character. And so it's a long story arc about how Militia Man figures out the truth of things. Wow, is that Russian that you're writing there? I don't know what language that is. Interesting. Anyway, so that's the show. Got done. So I'm gonna get back to doing some artwork here. And if you guys have any topics you'd like to chat about, ask questions or anything of that nature. So are you Russian? Are you from Russia? How do you know how to spell write Russian? That's cool. I just met a Russian girl clubbing at I go to like house music events where I live, and I shouldn't say she's really Russian. She was adopted from Russia, so she didn't grow up in Russia. But well, there you go. But I would love to meet a Russian girl. Hi, I'm new. Hey, Psycho Ghoul, what's shaking, dude? I just gave a huge show of all my artwork. It's too bad you just missed it, but I'll give you a tiny peek of my book here, Imperium Calling: Art and Poetry of Donald Kent. The link to this is at the homepage of my YouTube channel. You can check out more of my art and stuff there. And so, yeah, there it is. And there you go. And now you know. Now you are made whole. So I am going to do a little focusing here. Got a little bit of techno going on in the background. I guess they don't call this techno. This is minimal house. Uh, I took Russian in middle school, and while I was a good student, I wasn't a good student, didn't have good grades. I was one of the teacher's favorites. She's a great teacher and a better person. This is cool. Not gonna lie, need to teach me. Need to teach you Russian or teach you art. Um, yeah, I don't. I have a lot of friends that are really well educated on Russian history and all this kind of stuff. Um, I'm basically not one of those people that thinks like Russia's bad, Russia's evil. They're trying to take over the country. Russia's so bad. I'm not one of those guys. I have love and respect for Russia. Now I don't know about Putin. I think that there's maybe some questions there. Politicians in general, you got to question them. But he said some pretty base things, though. Of course, you never know if that is that a scam or what the hell is that? What the hell is that? I also like Russian history. Well, my heart goes out to the Russian people. Yeah, yes. I my main thing with Russia is that I would say that like I'm like deeply anti-communist, and so when I think about the Bolshevik Revolution, the brutality that they did upon Russia, the systemized sort of rape, robbery, and destruction of Russia to install their demonic ideology. Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of Russia, and so like, from that perspective, make Russia great again. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyway, let's just focus here. What do we got? What do we got? I hate him as a dictator. As a dictator, sorry, I'm dumb. No, you're free. By the way, you're free to say whatever you like. This is a free speech platform, guys. I happen to have a lot of followers that are really, really well educated on history and politics. So it's a good crowd. It's a good crowd to hang out with. You'll learn a lot. Um, I don't excuse me. I don't tend to attract like the sort of douchebaggy type people that just want to fight, and that kind of crap. It's not like that here at the Donald Kent Hour. Um, so I wouldn't worry too much. Um, so this kind of work with like when you're drawing really small, it's like doing brain surgery. It's very, very difficult. Um, but I'll jump back and forth with the chat. What are you drawing? Like, what is the comic about? Okay, so let's take a quick peek here. Give me a second here. Hmm. Militia Man. Okay. Militia Man is a normie Captain America style superhero, who, truth, the American way, and justice, and all that good stuff. And he, his team, MAGA Force, is sponsored by something called Judeo-Christian News. It's a kind of a news corporation, and they, you know, sponsor MAGA Force. So, and he's the leader of MAGA Force because he has that Americana vibe. But they come to discover that Judeo-Christian News is actually kind of a a front for like a globalist satanic cult. And so they try to kill MAGA Force and Militia Man. So Militia Man turns on them and has a comeback. But through the challenges of this experience, he loses his pregnant wife. They murder her. and murder his friends, and he transforms into a more radical political figure, a much, much more radical nationalist. And so when he comes back with a very vicious vengeance, like almost in a sense, he is almost like a villainous in a way, but not for freedom. He's a true hero for freedom. The statement that this makes is that there is no political solution, that tyrants must hang, and that the people have to come first, people before politicians. So that's like the like giving away the ending a lot here. I shouldn't be doing that, but that's kind of the whole deal. Let's see. Psycho, a dictator is a leader who is self-appointed and has absolute power, and are almost always evil, terrible people. So, well, anyway. So I think I mean, I could go on and on about that, but I just sort of want to give you a semi-quick answer for that and get back to work. And away we go. So what are you guys doing? What's new in your world? What channels do you guys follow? What are some of the what's some of the content that you guys like to follow on YouTube? Also, what are your thoughts on whites becoming a minority in all of our countries in the next 10 years? What do you think about that? Sorry to get political, man. No, that's what we do here. Where did you learn to draw? Well, I did go to. I majored in fine art in college. Um, if you like Star Wars, Ekin Slatter is a good guy to follow. I do like Star Wars. I'm more of a Star Wars traditionalist. Not so much like the woke Star Wars stuff. Um, if you know what I mean. Let's just get into the good stuff here. To be honest, the lady be looking like the Titans from Attack on Titan with the eyes. Not trying to be mean. It looks cool. Yeah. Again, like, just relax, dude. I don't get offended at anything. You can call me a pig-headed cherry picker or something, and I'll be like, hey, rock and roll, bro. Like, it's all good. I am complete and whole in and of myself. So I do appreciate constructive criticism whenever I can get it. That's always helpful. But like, it's the old sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. So you're good. I sometimes feel like there's like only so many characters out there, and people just subconsciously recreate them, over and over in some way or other. Oh man, these pens are going dry. That's not good. I need to make a trip to the art supply store. Okay. I read too much manga. Sorry, I'm a little nerd. We had a big discussion about manga the other day on one of my streams. I lived in Japan for a year, and damn, this one's dry too. Not good. Driving me crazy. So, but I studied traditional Japanese culture, not like manga. Traditional culture is more like you know Japanese theater and religion and literature. things of this nature. I learned how to do the traditional Japanese painting with the bamboo brush and blah blah blah, all those good things. But yeah, so I'm very, what's the word, like, I'm into American comics. I like European comics too, but yeah, I just never, like, manga never really grabbed me. Just not my cup of tea, if you know what I mean. I do often feel that there's something kind of wrong in the sense that, like, American kids should read American comics. Like, you can read Japanese comics, but don't be ignorant of your own culture. You know what I'm saying? Like learn about your own history and tradition in comics. We invented the medium, not the Japanese. They a lot of manga is based off of Walt Disney comics, like the style of it and everything is based on that. So the Japanese are masters of kind of duplicating culture and then improving on it. Like, we invent technology and then they make it better, for example. So it's kind of an interesting relationship between our cultures in that regard. Um, Japan is a lovely, lovely country, marvelous people. Whites becoming a minority could have effects on people being more accepting, as there will be less white only circles, which is a good thing. You could have bad parts too. Well, interesting perspective. So tell me if I'm right in what I'm kind of hearing is a sort of like a racism towards white people in that statement. So my question to you is, why can't whites have their own spaces? Especially if we built our own countries, why do we have to give them away? Aha, like the F-16 making it better to the F-2. What I'm hearing from your statement kind of sounds that you believe that whites are inherently racist. Isn't that notion itself racist towards whites? So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, I want to make a manga. Can you make a video about, like, how to draw manga style? Because my manga is about a 14-year-old whose soul gets taken by a vampire named Psycho, and they go to high school. So I do have videos on this channel teaching how to draw. Not a lot. I've got some. You have to kind of, like, hunt around a bit. They'll be in the live section, probably live studio art or live comics, and then you can see basic drawing skills. Regarding manga, it's not American, it's not white, so it's not something that I would teach. Um, I mean, I have taught, like, Chinese painting and stuff like that, years ago when I was an art teacher. But there's a ton of resources on the internet for learning manga, YouTube channels. You can go to your local library and find, how to draw manga comics. There's really quite a lot of resources, so I urge you to check that out. I'm going to turn the heat down here. I'm pretty warm. Oh, sorry, guys. Whoa, very hot. Okay. Time for a little water. Well, so do you think if whites become, I'm reading your comment there, Frog. Okay, you're saying it can arise then. I'm not sure what it is, if you could be clear. But at the same time, people being one thing can also preserve culture. So, um, let me ask you this. Do you think if whites become a minority in our own countries, will we be safe? Will we be respected? Will we be able to preserve our cultures when our, you know, politicians and teachers and institutions of every kind are run by people of other cultures? Do you just kind of get where I'm going with that? Like, so let's say this. Let's say, okay, I lived in Japan. Let's say I say, you know what, Japan is racist. We need more white people here. And then I told Japanese people, if you disagree with me, you're racist. And then I imported millions of white people into Japan. And then I made laws saying you have to hire white people, even though we're not qualified for certain jobs. Otherwise, uh, people can sue you. Do you think that'd be fair to the Japanese? Because that's what's happening in white countries. So the more people are aware of these things, the more we can fight them and stop them. That's preserving culture right there. All right. Uh, I am subbing for Psycho Ghoul. I'm trying to sub. The goat is here to you on all of my channels, so might leave. Oh, okay, well, thanks for subbing. I appreciate it. I have new shows coming up. Got lots and lots of older shows. You can check out my music as well. I write, and you can just check out my music. I have lots of cool songs that I wrote and recorded there. Um, there's just a lot going on. And then on Fridays, I'm going to have a new show with me and another political cartoonist. Um, he's created his own little comics company called Zog Comics. Do you guys know what Zog stands for? Let's see if you know what Zog stands for. Zionist Organized Government. Did you ever hear that before? Do you know what that is? So his stuff is, honestly, I would say controversial. I think his comics are pretty controversial. They're very, very hard hitting. He Political comics are pretty interesting because they convey truths that are censored. They, in a very quick and often comedic way, teach people things that propaganda would have them not believe. So it's a very powerful medium. Is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Mm. All right, let's take a look at some comments. We got a lot of comments here. I do, but I think we've forgotten that the USA is a multiracial nation. Its history is deeply multiracial, with the Native Americans, millions of slaves, and the Protestant white settlers. Let me let me talk about that. This is an excellent point. So, for starters, the nation known as America was founded and created exclusively by white people for white people originally. Native Americans currently have American citizenship, but that is kind of something that came years later, through people saying, like, we want the benefit of being American citizens. And so that, I can't tell you when exactly that went through, but that was never from the beginning. Slavery is something that is highly propagandized and politicized. 80% of the slave owners in America during the short time that slavery existed here were Jewish. Also, the Jewish people owned all the ships that transported slaves from Africa. Um, they ran all the slave markets that sold the slaves. And then consider also that they only made up about 2% of the population at the time. So if you look at the numbers, you'll see that's actually not a lot of people owning slaves. Um, that doesn't make it any less of a crime against humanity or anything, but it's certainly not something that whites can be blamed for. And then the other aspect of it is that whites are the only ones that made it illegal, that we went out of our way to say this is wrong. This is a crime against humanity, and we don't want it. And so, furthermore, um, Abraham Lincoln's idea was to send the slaves back to Africa, and a whole country was created for them called Liberia. And the capital of Liberia is called Monrovia. Now, Monrovia is named after Monroe, who was one of the founding fathers of the time, um, of the age. And so you can look this stuff up. The thing is, it's not taught in schools because the books that we pretty much grew up with in school were written by I shouldn't say written by, they were published by a guy who, I can't remember his first name. Last name is Maxwell, and he was an Israeli agent. So he wasn't really American. And when I say Israeli agent, I'm talking about Mossad, which is essentially Israel's CIA. So why would Mossad, create a children's book publishing company for all the books in American schools? Why would they want to do that? Interesting question. Do they want us to believe something about our history that's not true? Like, namely, they ran the slave market and not us? You see how diabolical that is? I bet you do. So there's a great deal of misunderstanding and ignorance, frankly, about the truth about American history. Um, so these notions that we have today about what's right and wrong are based on false historic propaganda. And so once you know the truth will set you free. Well, that's what I think is beautiful about America. It's a bunch of different people that come together and da da da. But do we really, though? And that would be a no, because there's massive, massive crime rates. I mean, I particularly have enjoyed lots of, different cultures in my time. I lived in New York City. I've traveled overseas. But the truth of the matter is that whites are really the victim of very, very huge crime rates from non-whites. And as a result, that notion of like us living together and all this diversity stuff is really just something that we see in TV commercials, but it doesn't actually exist statistically. So I think it's good to enjoy other cultures. I have quite a lot in my time. But at the same time, you also have to have a certain realism about what's going on, and not kind of get your information from TV. Plus, there's all kinds of books on the matter. There's a very, very famous and controversial book called The Bell Curve. And so, The Bell Curve is a book that came out, I believe, in the 70s. And what it was is scientific research on the relationship between IQ and race. And so, the highest IQ race are the Chinese, and after that are whites, and then it goes down the line from uh, uh, Arab, Hispanic, Native, and then at the bottom are African Americans, etc. So the deal with that is that it doesn't decrease the value of their lives as human beings. That's not the point. The point is, once we understand the relationship between violence and antisocial behavior and IQ, then the patterns of violence and antisocial behavior in other races becomes scientifically clear. And so, if you knew for sure that this is genetically coded into people, then it can't be changed, then you would want to reevaluate your thoughts about, how do we interact with other races. And so, as you can imagine, it's a pretty controversial book, but science is science. The numbers don't lie. And if you look at FBI statistics, you'll see the same thing. You'll see, you know, uh, although, say, African Americans are about 13% of the population, they create over 50% of the of violent crime. They're the least likely to stick around for raising their own children. I mean, even if you look at Africa today, in the entire history of Africa, there was never a building built that was over 2 stories high. They don't have the level of civilization that Asians and Westerners do. So, you can help them, but you can't fix them. You can't make them us. And the notion that we're all equal and the same is scientifically proven to be false. And really, all one has to do is just simply look at reality. Just open your eyes. If you look at certain areas of your city or your town, you're not going to go there because you're going to get hurt. You know, there's a reason for that. And these are hard truths. These are difficult truths for a lot of people to accept. Unfortunately, they are true. And the more we get in line with reality and out of line with Marxist fantasy propaganda, the better off whites will be. What else? What else? That's what I think. Hippocratic oath. I think I can hear Benjamin Franklin groaning from the grave. No kidding. Let's check out a message here. The goat is back. And that's my guy. Oops. Did I? Oh, good. All right, my man, 6 subs. I appreciate it. To go, that's my man right there. Not for. Oh no, let me look this up, gang. If you don't say it, I'm fine. I'll give you 5 subs. If you don't say what. I don't know. Hey, Mr. Shadow's back. Hello, brother Kent. How is it going? Awesome job with the drawing. Keep up the great work. Thank you, sir. I just want to know. By the way, I do not watch any television. Good. Keep your mind clean. The goat says, I'm going to be right back, chat. Yeah, I'm subbing for goat. Razorb is here. Wicked name. Cool, dude. What does Razorb mean? That's a pretty neat name, though. It's Razmataz. Good Good to have you guys here. I got a lot of new people. Melody Dawn is here. What a beautiful name. No, television in my house only for CCTV in such a rural area. I've seen some weird stuff. Many twerkers here. I cannot stand it. Sorry to hear that. I know how you feel. Melody Dawn, drawing's great as always. That's very nice of you to say. What happened to the music? Let's get the music back on. A little bit of minimal house music. Yeah. Let's see. Hypocritic says, "Did you see Larry Fink of BlackRock say countries with xenophobic immigration policies would be rewarded with a higher standard of living in the future?" Larry Fink, isn't he the head of BlackRock? He's a Jewish guy, head of BlackRock, and he's saying with xenophobic immigration policies. Maybe you could clarify that a bit more while I draw. OMGs. So yeah, crazy times we're living in, fam. Crazy times. Patriotic Sources. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed something. Or maybe it's because they are historically poor. The poor people are more desperate and therefore more susceptible to committing crime. Just my opinion, which is backed by CIA and very da da da. So this is an interesting thing. Okay, yes, they are poor, but let's look at this. Look at there's got millions of people flocking to the southern border from so-called poor countries. If they couldn't make wealth in their own countries, how are they going to improve our country? Aha, you see what I'm saying? They're not. They're coming to take the benefits, which are off of our tax dollars, off the sweat of our backs. So, meanwhile, it's all a big cover for human trafficking. What it really is intentional demographic change by the infiltrators, the small hat infiltrators who have come to fulfill their Talmudic beliefs, which is to destroy the sons of Rome in revenge for Rome destroying their sacred temples. And that's a big rabbit hole to go down right there. But the fact is, people all have different IQ levels. I'm, I don't know what my IQ is. I've never done a test, but it is what it is, and my poverty or wealth or what have you depends on my ability to figure things out and put things together. And there's different kinds of intelligence too. There's of course IQ, but there's also social emotional intelligence, EQ. And I would argue that whites have the highest EQ of all races because having lived in Asia for so long, worked in Asian companies and blah 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 blah. There is a really there's a noticeable gap between these things. So that's kind of another topic. I don't have any data though to back that up. Whereas the bell curve is all scientific data. So I think it's good to be compassionate. I that one I'll say this, like I appreciate your empathy. I think that and that's a very white thing to do. You know what I'm saying? And not that only whites are compassionate, obviously. But tell me when's the last time you heard of like black people coming together to create like a fund to help white people who are poor or, provide school lunches for white kids that are poor? You never ever hear that because it's never ever done. It's only the other way around. So really, you're looking at here is a parasitical relationship. Um, African Americans, in terms of like their tax contributions, they're in the negative they consume more tax benefits than they feed into it with their taxes. So that's a burden on everyone else. Let's see. Very true facts. Kent, Melody Dawn, thank you. Can we continue to talk about aliens and UFOs? Yes, we could change the topic. I'll gladly do that if you like. I don't support illegal immigration. I honestly think you are getting away from my point. Well, I'm not 100% sure I got your point in the first place, but I appreciate your talking to me about this. It's all right, though. Sponge Boss is here. Hello, me subbing. Razorb, thanks, Sponge Boss. What a great name. That's so cool. Um, are you related to SpongeBob in any way? I had to ask. I had to ask. Come on, come on. Aliens. Wow. Jason Reza Giorgiani. Look him up. Jason Reza Giorgiani. Reza, Reza. He's interesting. He's, in my opinion, the greatest mind of our time in terms of philosophers. And somehow or other, he has an inside scoop, excuse me, on aliens and what's really going on. He knows people very deep in the government that are involved in such things. And he wrote a book called Closer Encounters. So, for some younger people here, there was a movie by Steven Spielberg called Close Encounters back in, like, I don't know, maybe 1980 or something. And it was about first contact with aliens. So it's a fun movie. You can check it out. So the book being called Closer Encounters takes that name, or that term a bit farther. It's pretty cool. So in his book, he goes into some crazy, cray stuff, and he talks a lot about these things in interviews and such. You can see that in his interviews. Um, I'm just a guy that studies the stuff, and I'm trying to figure it out myself. I generally have more information on the topic than your average person, simply because people don't research this stuff. And I started researching it 19 years ago, so I have massive amounts of, mm, I want to say, knowledge, I guess. I mean, it's just data, it's just information. Um, and you have to realize that there's counterintelligence mingled in with these things. Uh, it's understood that the US government has alien technology currently, and that a lot of these so-called drones that you see are made by the American government. Some are literal drones. Um, some are sort of backwards engineered alien technology. Some are actual alien UFOs, and then others are what you might call orbs, which are a type of an alien sentient being that's more of a spirit, like in an energy body. Um, those tend to be very, as far as I've ever seen, those type of beings are somewhat angelic. They uh, they're just okay. So, like in the last show, we were talking about James Gilliland and his ranch, where you can go see orbs. You can camp out with other people and actually have contact with these orbs, and there's some kind of there's some form of consciousness. I said I spilled these ink before. I'm not sure what's going on there. Low key white due premises, but okay. So this is just to jump back on that again. um, you have to understand that the people that create terms, let's call dialectic, like white supremacists, for example, and racist, or any of those bigot, well, mostly things. So, okay, so for example, the word racist was created by Leon Trotsky, who is a Russian Jew who was part of the Russian overthrow of Russia, right? Or sorry, the communist overthrow of Russia. Why did he create the term racism? Because Russians were noticing that Jews were the ones running communism. And so they started pointing this out. And the Jews got scared and they thought, oh, we're being targeted. The gig is up. They figured us out. They know what we're doing. Well, we've got to invent language to, you know, bad names to call them, so that we're going to shame them and we're going to make it look like, oh, this type of behavior is very shameful. So what I am is a race realist, which is just science. Basically, it's just, looking at race from a scientific lens, like you would looking at biology of any kind, because it is, after all, biology. um, so when whites see that it doesn't benefit them to be around other cultures that are parasites to them and hate them, us, I should say, then that's self-preservation. That's not supremacy. You get my point? So calling someone a supremacist because they're trying to protect themselves is really gaslighting. Did you ever hear that term, gaslighting? This is what narcissists do in an abusive relationship. They basically say, like, "Oh, I'm hurting you, and when you try to stop me from hurting you, that means you're a bad person, and you should stop being a bad person." You see what I'm saying? So we have to transcend these dialectical tricks. Okay, so free your mind. That's my message for you. Um, Anyway, Jews have good time drawing some tonight, friend. Oh, I say, sorry. Clen Jones is here. Welcome, Clen. And and it's sort of like, I'm not hating on the Jews here, but I am saying that a specific elite group of perhaps the, what do you call them, the Khazarian mafia, the Zionists, etc. Uh, this is the primary source what we're talking about. That's a deeper topic, and it gets very abstract, and it's just a little too abstract for the moment. um, I don't know that if I ever want to go down that rabbit hole. But there's a lot of great Jews in comics. Stan Lee was a Jew. A lot of the great artists that I grew up on that inspired me to do comics were Jewish. So, like, I'll give credit where credit's due. I just don't like people who hate me, and want to destroy me, by, like, flooding my country with criminal immigrants that want to rob, rape, and kill everybody. Like, what's there to like there? That's another story. Whew, that was a mouthful. I'm 10. Sponge Boss says, I'm 10 and I read Attack on Titan, so I thought maybe to read Walking Dead. You think I could read it? I'm okay with violence and cursing. Well, just got to put the message out there, guys. Whenever I do a show on YouTube, there's some, buttons you got to push, and then you go live. And one of the things is, YouTube asks me, is this show, is this, like, safe for kids or meant for kids? Or is it for adults? And I always say, no, it is not for kids. It's for adults. So it puts me in an awkward position because I don't want to, like, block anybody from the show. You know what I mean? But at the same time, these topics are very adult topics, and you know you got to, like, and then for the adults that come to this show, we it's a little uncomfortable when you're around minors, because you're like, you shouldn't really be talking to strangers on the internet, these. And so it puts us in kind of an uncomfortable position. So what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I mean, it's a tough spot. I guess if I know that I've got, you know, younglings, coming to watch the show or whatever, then maybe we have to change the language and not talk about, controversial topics or something. I don't know. So, but it's kind of a concern that I'm having. Yeah, not super sure yet what I'm going to do about that. Let's see. We got Not a Frog says no. SpongeBob, do not read Walking Dead. It's a good maybe, but when you're older. Okay, thanks for your information. I've seen it. I mean, not the show, but like the comic or graphic novel, and it's like it's gigantic. It's like gargantuan, and I'm like, well, it's almost like a soap opera. You'd really have to kind of be invested in the characters, and I don't know. I mean, some people like that. Some people that want to really, really get into these worlds, where there's different characters and the kind of challenges they have, the relationships they develop, et cetera, et cetera. Um, Not a huge fan of the zombie genre, though, on top of it. So there's that. Let's see, what do we got? I was just curious because when I was reading AOT, back said a Japanese version of Long Dead. Kent, you seem very intelligent and respectful, and despite disagreeing with one on many things, I respect you. Rock on, my man. So thank you, man. God bless you, brother. I appreciate you saying that, and I'll send it right back to you, man. You can't know everything. I mean, we grow up in these kind of propaganda echo chambers, and it's not your fault that you don't know those things. There's a lot of people out there trying to control our narrative and teach us that we're inherently evil, and screw that. That's not, I'm not, homie, don't play that. So it's just if I were to come off like, oh, you're so ignorant, how come you don't know these things, then now I just made an enemy. And that'd be stupid. That would make you, not you, but like anybody, that would make them kind of like dig in harder on their own positions. And it's just not the way. It's not a constructive way. Um, it's kind of part of the movement that I represent, is white positivity. Keyword positivity. And I didn't. There was a time in the past when I didn't know these things either, and I was kind of shocked and disturbed. And I was like, what do I do with this information? How do I process this? Can I talk about this with people? Is this dangerous? Is this normal? Like, what will people say? Oh my God. But then after a while, you start to realize it's like people who don't see the truth of race realism are kind of like the modern version of like people who think that, the earth, like the sun revolves around the earth, or, it's a type of superstition or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So you just have to kind of lead people out of the darkness, but do it respectfully, as you said, and that you get more. What's the thing? You get more. Oh, there's a phrase. It's something about you get more with honey than with vinegar, or something like that, and it just means like you don't have to be rude about things to talk about them. And the other thing too is it's like all of this stuff you can clearly look up yourself. So anyway, Drone Wars is here. Cool, man. We got some cool Star Wars fans in the house. SpongeBob says, "I feel like you're the only YouTuber who actually makes good comics." Wow, and actually gives advice. Wow, keep rocking, man. You guys are pretty rocking yourself, man. It's pretty awesome to have you guys here. Um, since we got a bunch of new folks here, I'm going to kind of give you guys a little show. Um, I have a book with a variety of my artwork in it that you can get on Amazon. It's got comics, but also other stuff, some poetry. Hold on, let me kind of zip through here a little bit. Some fun stuff for you. Maybe I think I can back out a little bit. Let me set this down. And it's just a variety of different comics that I've done over the years, that are kind of fun. And but not just that, also illustration, like fantasy illustration, like that. kind of neat stuff, science fiction illustration. And this style is a bit different from comics, as you can see. This is, the sort of gray wash and all this other kind of neat stuff. So, if you go to the homepage of this YouTube, you will see my website, kent-art.weebly.com. Go ahead and click on that, and it'll take you right to this book where you can get a copy of this for yourself. And then you don't have to wait for my YouTube show. You can have hours and hours of art viewing pleasure. There's some like graphic design work I've done for book covers, magazine covers. This book was banned from Amazon because it's a kind of nationalist messaging, which of course is anti-communist. I do fine art as well, portraiture like this. I really love this portrait. I think it's very beautiful. Okay, I'll be honest. I had a big crush on her. She was a girl that I went to college with. Va-va-voom. And then you got some other portraits and this and that. Got an old dude. So yeah, check it out. Imperium Calling: The Art and Poetry of Donald Kent. Click the link. Go to Amazon. Let's see. I feel like okay. I will go on my original channel now. I'll be back. All right. Well, what time is it here? 10:15. LOC. LOC. Yes, LOC. And we're moving on. What's interesting about tonight is that I've got tons of new people, but not many of my regular crowds. So it's kind of neat because I get to meet some new folks and get a sense of what you guys are into, What kind of YouTube channels do you guys like to visit? Is it comics related, Star Wars, manga, video games? What's the score? You can turn the music up again. Hold on. Getting a little bit on the late side over here for me, but I think I'll push it a little longer. You guys have any questions, feel free to ask. When you're done here, please peruse my channel, check out the other videos, the other shows that I have had on this channel. A lot of good stuff here. I love this house music stuff. What do we got here? Have you ever had any deja vu moments? Oh boy. Sure, I think everybody does. I think that's just kind of a natural biological experience. I think a more interesting thing to talk about are my paranormal experiences. I've My mom passed away going on 3 years ago, and she has communicated with me in different ways, which has been really, I mean, it makes you cry, but it's also really beautiful and wonderful. You know, my dad passed away when I was 18, and he visited me in my dreams on at least two occasions. Um, and one of those occasions was extremely profound in terms of what he taught me and what I learned. Um, and I think that, for hold on a second here. What's that background sound? That's just a little bit of house music. It's a kind of they call it minimal house. Um, it's kind of trance like. And there's different kinds of house music. This one is minimal house. It's just, I don't know. I love house music. I'm a big fan. I go dancing on the weekends. Just really into it. I actually found out that house music has, what was it? It's something about the vibration in it that has certain meditative uh, qualities that are really beautiful and unique. So I completely get that. Blah, blah, blah. What do you think about the pyramids of Egypt? Um, okay, I'm out. Sorry, we'll be streaming tomorrow. Tomorrow is what, Thursday? And probably yes. Let's see, I'm having dinner. I'm gonna say probably yes. I'm trying to do as much streaming as I can. Friday night is the night to tune in because I got a very special guest coming, and he's also a comics artist, does political cartoons, and he's wild. He's really based. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I actually interviewed him years ago, and he's just exceptional. So that's going to be a really cool show. So you want to maybe put that on your calendars, I guess. Um, what do I think about the pyramids? So when I was an art teacher, one of my students was from Egypt, and he was a pretty neat guy, to be honest. He was one of the few Muslim students that actually knew how to behave and had like he was like a good guy. Um, and so he told me that in Egypt, in Arabic, they've got a sign posted on the pyramids that they were built by demons. Now, um, that's kind of a very Muslim thing to do. Like they don't like anything that's not from their religion. Like in Afghanistan, they blew up Buddhist statues that were like carved into the mountainsides. In places like Iran, they smashed all these Mesopotamian statues that are like a really important part of their history. It's sad and crazy. So I don't believe they were built by. So I do think they have alien origins. There's 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 documentation. There's investigations showing about how they just kind of like the energetic properties of the pyramids, and so it's pretty wild stuff. I'm not personally deeply interested in Egyptology, so I'm not. It's sort of like not my area. I mean, it crosses over into UFOs a lot, and I've heard a lot about it, but it's just not something I personally have like a huge interest in. Um, what I think is more interesting to me is how there is evidence between those pyramids. There's a connection between those pyramids and other pyramid-like structures around the world, uh, and that's the most I think I can say about that. So there's some kind of global connection that might have something to do with Atlantis, the culture of Atlantis. Um, you'd think I'd be more into that. It's just not the whole thing. Anyway, okay, goodbye. Psycho Ghoul had to leave. I'm sure the pyramids can fly. Um, I don't know anything about that. I just know that they they conduct um, energy of some kind. Um, I think that one of the functions of the pyramids is kind of it's like a homing beacon in a sense. So, like if you're traveling from another planet, these pyramids give off energy signals that can be read from outer space. So, why would they be designed that way if not to somehow connect to space travel, right? So there's that. Um, Truly fascinating. Eric Van Donigen. Have you guys heard of Eric Van Donigen? He is an Austrian who wrote, I think it's called Chariots of Fire. No, sorry, Chariots of the Gods. Chariots of Fire is a movie. Disregard that. Yeah, Chariots of the Gods was his big book, and he is, I'd say, the father of ancient aliens, like that whole genre of ancient aliens. A lot of people followed in his footsteps based on his research. Went around the world and looked at all of these ancient sites, that um, are like beyond explanation, and tried to find the similarities of those things. Eric Van Donigen. The whole pyramids had quartz on it in a long time ago, also. Have you studied much? Sounds like you have, Mr. Shadow. Sounds like that's like a field of study that you're interested in. Um, um, I think very likely that they were built by giants, whatever the species of aliens that they were. They could have been Nephilim. Um, this the whole thing about giants in world history is quite a fascinating thing. When I was doing consultation for the Seneca Nation, I befriended the chiefs there, and they told me that they know where the bones are buried of the giants in that area. They had a war with them. They genocided them because these giants were eating them, like the Seneca, Iroquois, Cayuga, Mohawk, Onondaga were the food of these giants, these red-haired giants. Kind of disturbing, right? It's pretty disturbing stuff. Like, I don't personally have like I'm not like, no way, there's no such thing as giants. Like, why not? Like, why couldn't there have been? Like, I just think it's people just have such small minds. Like, why is that so? I mean, it's just stupid. It's like there was a time when we didn't have the technology to travel under the ocean. And then we discovered like all kinds of like, you know, underwater life, and there's just discoveries and ongoing thing. Science is an ongoing thing, and a lot of what we don't know or what we think is magic or science fiction, fantasy, is really just science that we don't know yet. You know what I'm saying? And, in 100 years, it'll be common knowledge. So chill out, man. Oh, what do we got here? Hypocritic Oath says the two major races of Atlantis might interest you in light of the situation we find ourselves in now, with one creative race and a parasitic copycat race. Are you serious? They go all the way back to Atlantis. Ugh. Um, Shadow says the inside it also has echo chambers, so when sound or vibration, it would shake the pyramid. Wow. And you know, they are truly a wonder of the world, no doubt, no doubt. Um, hmm. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of knowledge about it, though, so I can't really speak intelligently on the topic. Hi, Zowie. Anyway, um, uh, even Nicola went to the pyramids. Are we talking about Tesla? Is this what we're talking about? Um, yeah, it's interesting stuff, no doubt. What else do I have here? Okay. All right. I think gotta move to some other stuff here. Pretty crazy. Well, my friends, I think my battery has run out. My inking battery has run out for tonight. So I believe I will call it a night. Good to get some new subs, some new views, some new friends. Thank you so much. And, please share the video in your social media networks and keep on rocking in the free world. Stick around. I will be back definitely Friday night, most likely tomorrow night. More fun times to come. Keep on rocking in the free world.